Okay, so today I want to show you a bit of Blitz, a world in conflict from Compass Games, a game made by Dave LeLacheur. And we're gonna play the Rising Sun scenario. So basically it doesn't cover the whole war. It's the Pacific War. It starts, you set up your game using these cards, showing you where all the forces are. It starts on turn 4, and to win the game you have to have the most victory points in the end. So in the beginning both Japan and the US have 0 victory points. They both start with 1 oil, and let's see what else we have. Yeah, we have the starting setup, of course. I'm gonna look into that more in a while. So we have some forces here on the west coast as well. You have a force pool, units that you can build. So as you can see, there's not a lot of units that neither Japan nor the Western Allies can build right now. But each build phase, which is the end of the turn, you can also put in new units from your reinforcement groups or research groups. So the Western Allies can always take 2 units. You have to take from the first group first, so the Japan will take units from here and the Western Allies will take from here. So there's lots of units that will be added to the game later. Okay. So as I said, in the game, this warm game here, the goal is to get the most number of victory points, actually, not really to conquer the other player's home country, although that could be part of it. But so the victory conditions are you're trying to collect victory points, and in this case Japan has some options here. So Japan has the option of either going for what's called the prosperity sphere, and then you have to control a lot of the Pacific. Basically, you need to control all the islands, all the land connected to this sea area, this sea area, this sea area, this sea area, this sea area. So if the Western Allies have more than one locate or island or land area connected to these areas, then Japan won't get any victory points for that. So I tried it in the last game to take this victory point, and I actually, as Japan, they got Midway and they got all the islands here, but it was very difficult to keep because there are you don't have so much infantry as Japan. So I'm not sure that this is a really easy task for the Japanese to do this prosperity sphere victory points. And then we have the long war. So if Japan is not conquered by turn 11 or later, then they start accumulating lots of points. So just surviving is one option for Japan. Paralyze US fleet. Japan has to have units at sea in Northeast Pacific, so over here, Central Pacific, Polynesia, South Pacific, Coral Sea, which is this one, and then US West Coast is also included in that, so this one over here. So if Japan has units in those sea areas, actually, yeah, it has to have 2 of those areas without any allied units in those areas, then you get 1 victory point at the end of the turn for paralyzed US fleet. Then we have Tenno-zan, which is a little bit of a weird victory point. Actually, if Japan has much less ships and air in the Pacific than the Allies have, then they get a victory point. So it's sort of a balance, a game balance thing. And there's also one called Victory in the CBI. Japan has to control at least 6 areas in Burma, China, India, and or Southeast Asia. So India, Burma, Southeast Asia, and China. So if Japan can get 6 areas here, then they get 1 victory point on the end of the turn. So those are the victory points for the Japanese. For the United States, or the Western Allies, as that the part is called in this scenario, it includes some allied units from the UK and Australia and India. So in this scenario, I think, let's see, you can only use this one, and this one. So 2, 3, and 4. So bring democracy to Asia. You basically need to take control land areas in China, Manila, and 6 other land areas touching the East China Sea. So they need to take control of a lot of stuff here. We have no casualties, which is very nice. So every time they take some area that was previously controlled by Japan, without losing any infantry whose home country is the United States, then they get a victory point. And this can be quite easy, especially if Japan is going for the co-prosperity sphere. They will have lots of empty islands that the US might be able to just go in and take. And Pacific domination, this requires the Axis, or the Japanese in this case, to have units at sea in at least 3 sea areas. So by the end of the turn, if the US can force the Japanese to rebase as much naval units so that they don't have sea naval or air units in at least 3 sea areas, then the US gets a victory point.